I thought the blue notebook was a record of what happened to the women in the bottom. I was wrong. As I read the last page, I realized the pattern isn't history, it's a countdown. And I just figured out who is next on the list. Mama wrote on the very last page after the very last entry, "Find Ruth Carter." Tonight, I'm going to tell you what those 3 words cost, what my mama knew when she wrote them, and why she could not say them to my face. My mama knew about Ruth, I told you that. Gloria told her the morning after the night the police came. Mama carried that secret for the rest of her life without telling a single soul. What I did not understand until after Mama was gone, and I finally sat down and read that notebook from the first page to the last, was that she had known something else too. She had known that what happened to me in the year my daughter was 7 belonged to the same story Gloria Carter had been carrying all those years. And she had known it long before I did. Mama was not an obvious woman. She did not announce her understanding of things. She observed, she remembered, and she held information the way she held everything else, gently, carefully, without letting you know she had it, until the moment she believed you needed it. Find Ruth Carter. That was not a random instruction. That was my mama reaching across death itself to tell me that the thing I had been carrying since my daughter was 7 years old had a name, and that name was tied to Gloria Carter's daughter. I have spent a long time wondering how Mama put it together. I think it came from 3 things she had been watching for years. First, she watched Reverend Booker, not with suspicion at first, just with the particular attention a woman gives a man who carries too much authority and answers to too few people. She watched who he visited. She watched when he appeared. She watched which doors seemed to close after he left. Second, she carried Gloria's secret, and in carrying it she came to understand what Reverend Booker valued most. Not friendship, not respect. Leverage. The kind that could make a woman smaller without anyone noticing she had shrunk. Third, she watched her own daughter go silent in March of the year my daughter was 7, and she recognized something in that silence because she had seen it before. On Gloria Carter's face, behind Gloria Carter's curtains, inside Gloria Carter's house after the world had gone to sleep. I have put those things together the way she put everything together, quietly, without explanation, without announcement. She wrote 3 words at the bottom of a page. She closed the notebook, and she waited. Mama lived 4 more years after she wrote those words. She never mentioned them, not once. For a long time I wondered why. Now I think she was waiting for me to become the person who could understand them. I needed to understand what Reverend Booker had done, not just to me, to Gloria, to Vera Mae, and maybe to women whose names none of us will ever know. I needed to sit with Gloria in the middle of the night and hear her story from her own mouth. I needed years. Maybe I needed age. Maybe I needed grief. Maybe I needed both. Mama knew that. She always knew that. An episode twee that I followed my daddy that night. That I stood outside Gloria Carter's window in the rain and heard voices and something breaking, and my daddy's voice saying, "Stop." What I did not tell you was what I saw before I reached that window. I had never followed anyone through the dark before. I took a wrong turn, lost time, and by the time I reached Gloria Carter's street, my daddy was already inside. As I came around the corner, keeping close to the fence, trying not to be seen, I saw someone coming out of Gloria Carter's yard, not through the front door, through the side gate. A man moving quickly, head down, coat collar turned up against the rain. He turned away from me and started down the block, never looked back. But when he passed beneath the street lamp, just for a second, I saw his face, and I knew that face. Every child in the bottom knew that face. I did not understand what it meant that night, so I put it where children put things they cannot explain, somewhere between memory and forgetting, and it stayed there for years, until the March my daughter was 7, when Reverend Booker sat across from me at my kitchen table, and I looked at his face, and I remembered. In that moment I understood two things at once. First, the man who had come through Gloria Carter's side gate that night was Reverend Gerald Booker of Mount Calvary Baptist Church. Second, he knew I had seen him. Not that night, not fully, but later. At some point he understood exactly who I was, and he waited. That is the thing about men like Reverend Booker. They do not rush. They keep things, they carry them, and they wait until the moment those things become useful. Then they come to your door smiling, and they sit at your kitchen table, and they remind you that they have been there all along. Ruth Carter came to Macon the spring after I turned 38. She had found Gloria 3 years earlier. For 3 years they had been building something between them. Not mother and daughter exactly. Too much time had passed for words that simple. Gloria told Ruth about my mama, about a woman named Cora Lee Cross, who had carried her secret longer than most people carry anything. Ruth wanted to find her. She wanted to say thank you. Mama had been gone 2 years by then. Ruth knocked on my door on a Tuesday afternoon. I did not know who she was, and there was something familiar in the stillness of her. She said, "Are you Hattie Mae Cross?" I said I was. She said, "My name is Ruth Carter. My mother is Gloria Carter. I have been looking for Cora Lee Cross." I stood there a long moment. Then I asked her to come inside. We sat at my kitchen table for 2 hours. She told me about Gloria, about Tifton, about Mrs. Delia Foss, about the envelopes, about what it feels like to spend half your life not knowing who you are, and the other half learning you were wrong. I told her about Mama, about the notebook, about a woman who kept another woman's secret for more than 20 years and never once asked to be thanked for it. Ruth cried, not loudly, the quiet way. Watching her, I thought of someone. I thought of Gloria Carter standing at a sink. My daughter was in the back room, 10 years old, supposed to be doing homework. She was in the hallway, the way I was always in the hallway. She heard more than she was meant to hear. And the thing she heard that afternoon, the thing that followed her for the next 30 years, is what I found in that box last year, written down in her own hand, 30 years of carrying it. I want to explain why the notebook ended up in that box. Not because I was hiding it. I had read it. I knew every number in it, and I knew the 3 words on the last page. The notebook was tied to the afternoon Ruth Carter sat at my kitchen table, and that afternoon was tied to something my daughter heard from the hallway, something I had never figured out how to explain. So I put it all together, the notebook, a photograph, and a letter Ruth brought me from Gloria Carter. A letter Gloria had written to my mama and never sent. I put it in a box, set the box on a shelf, and told myself I would open it again when I was ready to tell the whole story. The letter Ruth brought me was 4 pages long, written in Gloria Carter's careful hand. I am not going to read it to you. It was written for my mama. But I can tell you what it said. It was a thank you letter, not the polite kind, the kind a person writes when they have spent years carrying something alone and finally find words for what it cost. Gloria wrote about what Mama had done, what it meant to know there was one person in the bottom who knew her completely and chose to protect her completely without being asked. I told you tonight about the 3 words my mama wrote at the bottom of a notebook. Find Ruth Carter. I told you what she knew, what she understood long before I did. I told you what I saw when I was 12 years old, and what came rushing back 23 years later when Reverend Booker sat down across from me. And I told you that Ruth Carter sat at my kitchen table while my daughter stood in the hallway. The way children in this family always seem to be nearby when history decides it is finished whispering. There is one more thing. My daughter found 2 things in that box. The first was Gloria's letter. The second was an envelope, plain white, her name on the front, my handwriting. For 30 years, every time I came close to telling her the truth and couldn't, I wrote another page. 30 years of pages, waiting. She has never opened that envelope. She is waiting for me to tell her she can. Next episode, I'm going to tell you about the last woman whose private truth found its way into Reverend Booker's pocket. Before I can tell my daughter what is inside that envelope, I have to finish this story. I have to tell you what Reverend Booker really left behind. Because some truths are not heavy because they are hidden. They are heavy because of what is buried underneath them. You come back now. You hear me?